Philippians chapter 1 and verse 6. And probably the overriding themes of Philippians is joy. And it's very interesting that the theme is joy, because as Paul is writing this to Philippian believers, encouraging them in joy, if anybody had reason to not have joy, it's Paul as he's writing this. I mean, writing it while under arrest and all the troubles and struggles that he perpetually went through. In the midst of that, it takes this opportunity to encourage the Philippians on having joy in the Lord. And in Philippians 1:6, he says, "And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Christ Jesus." And there's three things I want us to consider as we come to our next section of prayer. Three things about this verse, and maybe one will strike you, or all three might strike you, or whatever the situation might be. Where it says, "I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion." That God has begun in you a good work of transforming you to the image of Christ, working in your life to bring glory and honor to His name. And if you're anything like me, there's that tendency to look at life and look at the frustrations, look at the obstacles, look at the roadblocks, look at the speed bumps, look at the things that didn't go the way that you thought they should have went, and just all the things that we could easily complain about, and all the negative things that we could just harp on and put our focus on. But Paul is sure of this, that he who began a good work in them will bring it to completion. That even when it comes to prayer, my tendency can be to dump the truckload of frustrations before the Lord. And we're called to do that. Don't misunderstand that. But in the midst of that, do we still take the same time to step back and reflect on how God has been working, what God has done? Not just how badly things are going, but what God is doing even in the midst of those frustrations, even in the midst of those difficulties, to see how God is still using it for His glory. It doesn't lessen how much the struggle might be, but still recognizing that God is, even through that, doing a work in us. And sometimes that might mean coming to prayer and saying, "Lord, I need some wisdom here, because I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't see how in the world this could possibly bring you any glory at all." But still, in the midst of that, trusting Him enough to say, "Lord, this hurts. I don't like this, but I thank you. I trust you. And I know that some way, somehow, you're doing something here." And to seek to find those ways that His hand is working. It's really easy to find the ways in which it looks like His hand isn't working. But to take that moment to find where He is working, so that we can give Him praise and to give Him thanks for that. But also it says, "And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." To not allow ourselves to get in this point of thinking that, whether it be some new circumstance that's come into our life or some new failure on your part, that suddenly everything that God was doing in you is now over. That it's all been shattered to 1,000 pieces and it's too late now. But the work He began and He is doing, He is going to complete. No matter what comes into our lives, He is still going to work through that new situation, that new circumstance. Even when we struggle, even when we fail Him, He will still work through that to bring us closer to Him, to make us more like Christ. And I think in a lot of ways that's where praise and trust and faith come in recognizing that, Lord, not only have you begun a work, not only are you doing a work, but you're going to complete the work. You're not going to leave this as an incomplete project. I've got a lot of those around the house, just those things that I started but never got to. God is not going to leave your life an incomplete project. He is going to continue that work that He's begun. And in prayer, to take that moment to thank God and reaffirm that trust that He is in control, that He is working, and He's going to continue to work to bring honor to His name. But the other thing that strikes me about Philippians 1:6, again, "And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ." Again, encouraging the Philippians about God's work in them, encouraging the Philippians to have joy in the Lord in the midst of their circumstances. And again, Paul could have easily written this the way that maybe I would have, or some of us would have written it, and that, get over it. Do you have any idea what I'm going through? It's just, you've got it made. Take a look at what I'm going through. But he sets all of that aside to focus on encouraging these believers. And sometimes I think we can so look at what we're facing, and again, not to diminish in any way what we're facing on a weekly or daily basis. But there also comes that point, too, where we have to trust that to God and not miss those opportunities to be an encouragement to others around us. Because sometimes when we're going through those pains, we can kind of look to everybody else like, come on, you guys need to get on and encourage me. And everybody should be coming on board to encourage you. But still, Paul's focus here is, I'm going to set aside the problems that I'm facing behind the scenes here so that I can focus my attention, my heart on ministering to these Philippians and blessing them and being an encouragement to them. And maybe in prayer even tonight of saying, okay, Lord, I've been really focused on what I've been going through and the struggle I've been facing. But Lord, is there a believer in my life that you've brought into my path and you can use me to encourage them? But Lord, I've been distracted by my circumstances and I haven't seen that. And Lord, help me to see that and show me what you'd have me to do so that I can encourage another believer and build them up in word, a card, a call, in prayer, whatever that might be. So maybe tonight you want to come before God in these few moments and thank Him. Instead of just complaining about the frustrations, to thank Him that even through those, He's still in control, He's still working. Maybe reaffirming just that trust in Him, that He's continuing and will finish that work He's begun. And maybe it's saying, okay, Lord, is there a believer that I'm supposed to be encouraging, but I've been distracted by my issues and haven't seen who you want me to be ministering to at this time? So let's just take these few moments before the Lord and just whatever aspect of this verse, maybe it's something I didn't even talk about in this verse, that just pick up a springboard for you as we come before Him in prayer. So let's go before Him and lift our hearts to Him in prayer.